Hey guys, Bronze Raz MMA back, and today I'm talking about the best defensive strikers in the UFC. So I saw Lucas Tracy MMA, I saw Bedtime MMA, I saw all these different channels talking about the best strikers. And when I started to make my list, I was kind of confused because I had like some guys on the best offense. I was like, oh, they have much better offense than defense, some better defense than offense. Like I was thinking about Islam Makhachev. Where would I put him compared to Max Holloway? And that's when I was like, why don't I just separate them, make it a best defensive, best offensive, and start from there. So I decided to make this list, and I should probably preface what I mean by defensive striking. So defensive striking for me falls into two categories. One of them is fighting on the back foot, and the second is your ability to block, parry, not get hit, or if you do get hit, minimizing that. So for me, the best defensive striker is somebody who either does one of them very well, does both of them very well, which is ideal, or does both of them pretty well. So even if one guy is very good at the back feet but doesn't really block or parry shots as well, that's fine. So that's kind of how I'm going to be looking at this list. Start off with the best defensive strikers is the guy who actually kind of was responsible for inspiring this list, and that's Islam Makhachev. So Islam Makhachev, first and foremost, he outboxed Dustin Poirier. He beat Volkanovski twice on the feet, one via KO. He beat Charles Oliveira on the feet as well. And Makhachev is one of those guys where we know how good he is on the ground. We know how great of a grappler he is, but his striking is what's been kind of shocking to see him develop. Right, he's become one of the best strikers in the division, on top of being quite easily the best grappler. And his striking is like one where he's very defensive in the sense that he doesn't really give you a lot of openings. And after he got knocked out that one time several years ago, it's like Makhachev just decided he had no interest in ever getting knocked out again, and he completely changed his striking style around that. And he's super compact. He's when he's on the back foot, like I think it was against Volkanovski, where Volkanovski was coming forward and Makhachev planted his feet, twisted the hips, I think it was a straight right or straight left, and that was a move that wobbled Volkanovski. So great on the back foot, great at blocking shots, doesn't keep himself very open. So definitely I think Islam Makhachev is one of the best defensive strikers in the UFC. Next is Alex Pereira. So if you've seen the video from a while back, it was like Pereira gets hit too much or something like that. And so the narrative got built, I think, that Alex gets hit a lot. And while that is certainly true, I just want to really quickly say that he rolls with the punches a lot. And this is something I remember Nick Diaz said, which was sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, right? And Pereira does that. If you, like, people will say, oh, if you see his Bruno Silva fight, he was getting tagged. Rewatch that fight, rewatch his fight with Izzy. You'll recognize that when a punch comes his way, Pereira is so good at rolling with it. His head is already beginning to turn, so when he gets hit, he's not getting clipped right on the face, right? So with Adesanya in the second fight in UFC, when he got knocked out, he didn't roll with the punch. He was completely stationary. He was standing. He was like a stone brick wall. He got hit and he got dropped. Against Yuri, that's one of the ones I saw where I rewatched the fight and I recognized that Yuri was not tagging him very much. Yuri was getting close to tagging him, but he would roll with the punches. On top of that, he has great distance management, which is an important part of defensive striking, knowing where to keep the guy. He likes to keep his arms out wide, so when a guy comes forward, he'll have him outstretched. This way, he can kind of block the momentum of the opponent, so even if they do strike, the momentum's kind of lowered because they're running right into his hand. And on top of that, just his reach. And we got to talk about his ability to fight on the back foot, which isn't crazy. When he gets pressured, he kind of just moves back in a straight line. But we saw against Yuri, he'll plant his feet, twist his hip, throw a shot. The left hook is always there, and it'll do some serious damage. And then we got to talk about his leg kick defense. Joe Rogan and we're like, oh, well, Adesanya just tripped. He didn't really trip. He, as you can see over here, he threw a leg kick. Pereira checked it. This dude's a beast on the defense. Next is Sean Strickland. So he's a master of the Philly shell in the UFC. We kind of saw him against Adesanya, where Adesanya was kind of not master classing. That was Strickland. Adesanya was the one who was doing too much, right? This kick, that kick. He was trying to spin around, feints, and Strickland had just so much confidence in his reaction time, so much confidence in his footwork. And he's really good at parrying. I remember watching the fight with Adesanya. He was kind of parrying all the shots, and he's probably one of the better guys at doing that. And he doesn't really get hit by a lot of clean, big shots. So Pereira is probably the only guy who's been able to do so. And again, the Philly shell is something that I think he's going to be he's kind of innovated it in the UFC in a lot of ways. People were doing it before him, but nobody's really done it as successfully. With that being said, he doesn't really like being pressured a lot. If you saw his fight with, I believe it's Abus Magomedov, where he was being pressured, you saw him getting hit. Like, he doesn't really like it as much. But the thing with Strickland is he's so good at making you fight his style that he doesn't really have to worry about fighting on the back foot as much. And when he's coming forward and he's got that Philly shell going and that jab and that teep, it's game over. Next is Israel Adesanya. So, I mean, he's got to be one of the best counter strikers in the UFC. I know a lot of us don't really like him, but regardless of your opinion on him, you can't deny the fact that he is one of the best counter strikers. Knocked out Whitaker, Costa, Pereira. Great distance management. Like, we all make fun of him kind of for standing, or rather staying from the distance, leg kick, leg kick, leg kick. But he's actually really good at distance management, and that's part of his game plan, right? And he doesn't get hit a lot by heavy shots. I'm trying to think. Kelvin Gastelum was one of them. Pereira, of course, and then maybe Yoel Romero. And then you saw him immediately go into defensive mode and win the fight by kind of staying on the outside and just leg kicking. So, again, great counter striker. Even against Pereira, that was a counter strike. Against Whitaker, he also counter striked him as well. One of the best at doing that. Next is going to be Sean O'Malley. And Sean O'Malley, like, if you watch his fight with Aljamain Sterling, that is like a picture-perfect pullback counter. I mean, absolutely perfect. He's moving back, plants his feet, twists the hips, throws a shot, boom, Sterling goes down. About as perfect as it's going to get. Chito Vera, right? We just talked about the master class that he put on him, but how about the defense, right? Even when Chito would come forward and try to do something, he was counter-striking, he just wasn't there, right? Even when he would cover up, it's really hard to get something going on him. And when we talk about Petr Yan was diving at his legs. We got to keep in mind that Petr Yan is one of the best, like, robotic-style fighters, and yet he couldn't really get anything. He got a couple clean shots on Sean O'Malley, don't get me wrong, but nothing like he was doing to some of his other opponents, like Uriah Faber or Corey Sandhagen. So when it comes to defense, we all know how good O'Malley is on the offense, but the defense is super clean as well. Next, I'm going to talk about Dustin Poirier. So Max Holloway said it best. He blocks weird. He has a really weird... He combines the Philly shell and the wing block to create something kind of unique. The only guy I can think of that really does it like him is TJ Dillashaw, who's retired now. So he's really good at that. It's really weird, and the great thing about his defense is that if you watch his elbow, it goes down to his body. So he's blocking his body. He's got the wing block, so he's blocking you from getting it to his face as well. Perfect defense, but the one problem about Poirier is he doesn't really check leg kicks as well. That's not to say he's terrible. Like, after the Gaethje fight, I would say he's improved on it quite a bit, but it's still not something that is ideal at a high level. But his boxing defense is so strong that I just had to include him on the list. Next is going to be JDM. I think JDM is probably the most underrated striker in the UFC, period. People talk about his amazing offense. We saw it against Kevin Holland, but how about his defense? I mean, against Gilbert Burns and Holland on the feet, he's very hard to miss. I mean, very hard to hit. He goes into that, like, defensive boxing. I'm forgetting what it's called. It's just like your basic boxing defense. But he's so compact at it, so good that you're kind of trying to teep shots out and you can't really get anything going. So I just wanted to include JDM as well and kind of give him some light as well. And I'm going to end this I'm going to end this list off with Leon Edwards, who is probably the most consistent defensive striker in UFC currently. If you watch this fight with Usman in the second fight especially, I know Edwards is kind of considered to be a bit of a boring fighter, but I thought that fight was, like, technically amazing. It was just wonderful to watch Edwards strike. And you saw, like, Usman hates fighting on the back foot. He does not like being pressured. So Usman was the one coming forward, and Edwards was the one countering, and he has that reach, he has that length. He's a tall guy for the division. And he was just getting his shots off like that. That knee was one of the biggest shots of the fight. And he's got that distance control, right? Will stay on the outside and leg kick if he needs to. We saw that against Colby Covington especially. He loves his body kicks like he did against Kamaru Usman. in the clinch, he'll go for those knees, really defensively sound. And people are going to say, well, what about Nate Diaz? What about Ryan Barberena? What about all that? Look, the best defensive strikers all get caught. Alex Pereira got knocked out. Israel Adesanya's been knocked out. Everybody on this list has been caught by something. You know, this is fighting at the highest level. I can't expect the guys to have 100% striking defense 24/7. They're going to get caught sometimes here and there. Islam Makhachev has been knocked out, you know. But when it comes down to it, I think Edwards is one of the most consistent defensive strikers in the UFC. So I think that's going to top off my list. I don't think I have anybody else. Let me just check. Yeah. I want to thank you guys for watching. I'm eventually going to come with the offensive strikers list, and then I want to combine both of them and make an overall strikers list. But this is just defense for now, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do you guys agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bronze Raz out.